Good evening, everyone. I'm Zen Master Sebastian Rizzon, founding master of the Zen Arts Center and the Mind Light Way School of Zen Arts. And as most of you know, I give these talks on the third Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. And you can also find them anytime after that on the Zen Arts Center YouTube channel. So tonight I'm going to start off by giving you some koans. A koan is a question or a statement that tests the limit of our knowledge, our logical reasoning, and even our thinking. Everything we know is contained within the universe. But what is the universe contained in? What holds the universe? We say that the universe is composed of matter, but what is matter? Is it just molecules, atoms, and particles that make up everything? If so, what's in between the particles? Is it a vacuum, a void, or a field? What do we call this space? This void of space makes up the vast majority of the volume of our universe, but I don't even think we have a specific name for it. What do we even call something that appears to be nothing? I did a little bit of research about this on the science and physics of the universe, and I couldn't find a specific name for this void. So for the purpose of this talk, I'm just going to call it emptiness. Emptiness is the space that contains everything. You could think of it as a void, or perhaps even a substance or field in which everything in the universe exists. The point I'm trying to make is that this emptiness completely transcends the words we have. So how can you even begin to understand what it is? You might be wondering what this has to do with Zen. Well, Zen is a practice of studying the Dharma, and Dharma is the truth inherent in nature. So understanding the true nature of our reality can help us understand the true nature of ourselves. Zen practice can help us find the answers to these types of questions in koans. So how can you do this? The answer we're looking for is beyond our words, beyond our logic, and beyond our ability to comprehend in a rational way. It's beyond the reach of our thinking and our ability to intellectually understand. So how can you even begin to understand what emptiness is? This is the purpose of Zen meditation practice. We're trying to experience this emptiness. We do this by putting down and letting go of all of our thinking. This means letting go of your feelings, your emotions, your opinions, and desires. Let go of every idea you've ever had about anything, including the very concept of yourself, until there's absolutely nothing left. Until all that remains is emptiness. At that point, there's no concept of you or I or anything else, just emptiness. When all of these conceptual boundaries are gone, there's nothing left except emptiness. Then you're one with the emptiness. When you reach that point, you'll know the answer to all these koans. Then you'll understand 100% what I've been trying to explain with my words. In Zen Buddhism, reaching this state that transcends all words is what we call attaining enlightenment. This is ultimately why we practice meditation. We're trying to reach this state of being. In truth, there's actually nowhere to go. You're already there. But without enlightenment, it's like being in a room with the lights off. Your mind is dark because your thoughts are blocking the light. It's impossible to fully understand where you are as long as you're in the dark. Your thinking is getting in the way. So you have to clear out your mind of all of your thoughts so the light can shine through. Then you can see clearly. So with that said, let's meditate together so we can clear our minds. But first, plant this seed in your mind and ask yourself, What is the emptiness that holds everything, is within everything, and is connecting everything that exists? Now let's seek the answer that lies within us by letting go of our thinking and meditating. So before we meditate, we're just going to begin with a breathing technique that can help you relax and prepare your body for meditation. So start by breathing a little bit slower and a little bit deeper than you usually do. Visualize your heart in the center of your chest as you breathe. And as you listen to me, I want you to continue to breathe a little bit slower and deeper. Feel your breath coming in through your nose and mouth and collecting all of the energy from your brain and moving it from your head into your heart. Imagine now that you're breathing with your heart. The purpose is to try to align our mind, heart, and body. You can also place your hand on your heart and close your eyes if you like. Keep breathing a little bit slower and deeper as I talk. This is a technique that you can use to relax or reset yourself whenever you feel nervous or anxious, or whenever you feel like you need to switch gears from different things you're doing throughout the day. You can use it when you wake up, before you enter a stressful meeting, before you go to sleep, or before you meditate. So let's just take a few more moments to take some slow and deep breaths. So tonight, as usual, we'll be doing a mantra meditation. So we're going to turn around in our places, and we're going to sit with our legs crossed. And your hands will be right hand, left hand, touching thumbs, centered in your lap. Try to keep your neck and back straight so you're not slouching. And we'll have our eyes closed, but if your eyes were open, they would be at a 45-degree angle looking at the floor. If you get uncomfortable during this meditation, you can stretch out or stand up. Just try to be respectful of everyone else meditating around you. In traditional Zen meditation, a mantra is used to clear the mind. The mantra is the focal point of meditation, usually a word or a phrase that's repeated within your mind. If you try not to think, thoughts will inevitably come into your mind. So by focusing on the mantra, you can use it to push out all of the other thoughts. When you meditate, try to let go of your feelings, opinions, desire, and ego. As you meditate, only concentrate on your mantra. If another thought comes into your mind, let it pass and return to focusing on your mantra. You can use anything as a mantra during meditation, but I usually suggest the mantra of Kwanseum Bosal. Kwanseum Bosal is the name of the bodhisattva of love and compassion in Korean Zen. A bodhisattva is an enlightened person that's dedicated their life to helping others. Kwanseum Bosal is often depicted with thousands of eyes and hands and is said to be able to see the suffering of everyone and help those who call out her name. So using this mantra will bring compassionate energy towards you while you meditate. So let's turn around in our spots and we'll meditate for about 20 minutes or so. So earlier we talked about emptiness. Emptiness is the primary dimension in which everything exists. In Zen and Buddhism, we try to understand the emptiness through our experiences. In essence, we're trying to understand the underlying truth of our reality and existence. As a teacher, I try to explain the emptiness using words through koans and Dharma lessons. But my words can only point you in a direction. They can't give you the truth. In science, they use physics and mathematics to try to explain reality. Ultimately, we're just using a different language, but we're still trying to do the same thing. I personally also like to use metaphors and visual art to try to explain this experience of existence. The problem is, no matter what language you choose, it can never completely capture the truth. Even the most precise scientific and mathematic expressions we use to describe nature have built in a certain degree of uncertainty. At some point, we just agree that a small amount of uncertainty is acceptable within the laws of physics. The problem is that if time is infinite, over enough time, even the smallest of uncertainties becomes certain to happen. For example, if a certain event only happens once every 1,000 years, you can be fairly certain it won't happen in your lifetime. However, if your time frame is billions of years, then that event will almost certainly happen thousands of times. It's impossible to prove that any law or theory will hold true over an infinite amount of time, or even in the next moment for that matter. Laws and theories can only ever forecast probable outcomes based on information we have about the past. They can't predict or determine the future beyond probability. And probabilities don't exist in reality. They only ever exist within our mind. Even our ability to understand mathematical solutions breaks down whenever the result is infinity. Sometimes they refer to this as a singularity. This is actually what happens in our calculations surrounding black holes and the origin of the universe. The mathematics produce an infinite answer, or singularity as they call it. Is infinity even a real thing? This is a clear limitation to our knowledge about physical reality. Our practical understanding of mathematical solutions also reaches a limit whenever our answers produce the number 0, which represents nothing. There's no way for a physicist to illustrate what infinity or 0 actually means with a concrete example of something from our physical reality. If your worldview is that everything in reality is composed of something physical, then it's impossible to understand what nothing is. For instance, if you're a materialist, then you believe everything is composed of matter. This is a barrier that many scientists have created for themselves that will prevent them from ever understanding the entire truth about nature. As long as you're using language or mathematics to explain the universe, it will only ever serve as an approximation of the truth. As long as you're using material properties to explain the universe, you'll leave large voids of emptiness which you can never explain. It doesn't matter how good our technology and our experiments get. There will always be some certain amount of uncertainty, which we usually agree to accept because it's practical. But as long as there's any uncertainty, it can't be absolute truth. I'm not trying to disparage science and math. I acknowledge that science and math are still incredibly useful for understanding our world. It's undeniable that this knowledge can be used to do amazing things and create useful technology. I'm only trying to point out that it will always have certain limitations. If you want to understand the full scope of the truth, you have to be able to understand not just the material parts of our world, but also the emptiness that holds everything. The emptiness can't be tested by physical experiments because, by definition, it's not physical. Therefore, the only way to understand the emptiness is through the realm of the mind. The mind is actually the primary dimension which all other dimensions exist. The concepts of space and time are merely ideas in our mind that we use to approximate reality. The mind is also the only place that mathematics exists. Math uses ideas like lines and circles, but in truth, lines and circles don't actually exist in nature. No one has ever found a perfect circle in reality, or even a perfectly straight line. At some point, we just say, it's close enough, and we call it a line. These geometric representations only exist in our imagination. All mathematical representations are based on postulations which are assumed to be true. Most philosophers evaluate their postulations, theories, and explanations using a principle called Occam's razor, which states that theories with the fewest assumptions are generally the best explanations. This means that the simplest explanation with the least amount of assumptions is the best theory. If you take this principle seriously, you have to consider very seriously the axiom that the mind, or perhaps consciousness, is the primary origin of everything we know. The mind is the bridge between science, mathematics, art, philosophy, religion, and spirituality. Everything we know about the world, the universe, and reality is contained within our mind. It's the primary dimension where all of these things exist. But this idea raises an even bigger question. What is the mind? The mind represents another limit of our knowledge. It's really hard to even find an agreement on what the definition of the word mind is. That's how little we know about it. Why do you think this is? The reason we struggle to define what the mind is because the mind is empty. It's not empty like this room where you could fill it up with enough stuff. It's not even empty like outer space. For example, if you put objects into outer space, it increases the mass. The mind is a special kind of empty. No matter what you put in it, it never changes physically. It never changes weight, mass, or volume. It's always empty. You might think your mind is full sometimes, but as soon as you fall asleep, it's empty. Then when you wake up, everything's still there. There's nothing else like that in the universe. There's no way you can even measure your mind because it's empty. This emptiness is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of class. The emptiness is what holds everything, is within everything, and runs through everything. It's what connects everything that exists. The emptiness is the primary dimension in which everything exists. Many people have a hard time accepting this because they have a bias that everything must be composed of something physical. But if you believe in the principle of Occam's razor, this is the most simple and elegant answer that weaves together everything we know. Yet this is the most difficult thing that you can ever try to understand because no one can ever truly explain it or prove it to you. You can only prove it to yourself. Every language, including math and science, can only offer a crude approximation when it comes to trying to explain reality. Even my talk today is just a rough attempt to explain the truth about reality, but it will inevitably fall short because I'm using words. I can tell you about the mind and emptiness with words, but the only way to truly understand what I'm saying is to throw away my words and turn your attention inwards into your mind. In Zen and Buddhism, we meditate to empty our minds and become one with the emptiness. When you become one with the emptiness, there's no concept of you or I. Experiencing this awakens a deep awareness of your connection to everything. This awakening liberates you from your suffering because there's nothing left to suffer. This awareness of your connection to everything triggers an innate love for everything you're connected to. This love leads to a feeling of compassion for every being. This realization will compel you to want to help everyone reach this deeper understanding about the nature of reality. This is the Buddha mind. If we can all reach this understanding, it will lead us to a more harmonious state of being. This is not always an easy task because it requires that we let go of so many of our preconceptions. This is why I started the school and why I'm hosting these classes. I'm trying to create a cooperative and compassionate community that helps us all grow and reach for this state of understanding so that we can live in a more harmonious world. Most of the rules and laws in our society are well-intentioned and have the same goal, but we'll never achieve peace in the world until we all achieve peace within ourselves. Until then, there will always be someone disrupting the peace and choosing not to follow the rules. This is why with my school and these classes, I'm trying to help people find a path to inner peace. When you discover that you're part of something bigger and you're connected to everything, you'll find harmony within yourself and be liberated from your own suffering. I realize this might sound like a pretty lofty goal, and maybe it seems impossible, but you absolutely have the power within yourself to take the steps in the right direction. Right now, you might be wondering, what can I do? I would suggest getting started by taking one small step in the direction you want to go. You can start by meditating for 1 minute. You can use the breathing technique or the mantra meditation we practiced at the beginning of this class. See if you can meditate for 1 minute every single day. Try doing it right after you wake up in the morning. This will help you establish a routine before anything else gets in your way. After you can do that consistently, try to expand your practice to 5 minutes. You can keep going like this and try to expand your practice for more time and at different times throughout the day. But always make sure you stick to your routine and do at least 1 minute every day. This will ensure that you're clearing your mind once a day. If you want your body to be clean every day, you need to take a shower every day. So if you want your mind to be clear every day, you need to meditate every day. It's the same idea. You can also learn to turn your actions into a moving meditation. If you learn to focus on what you're doing as if it's a mantra, this means you stay focused 100% on whatever you're doing and don't let your mind wander. This might sound easy, but it usually takes practice. I usually suggest practicing this by using some form of exercise or art form that you enjoy. I initially learned how to do this through martial arts practice, and I've learned to apply it to making art and even more mundane tasks like cooking, cleaning, and doing the dishes. You can also come to these classes and be a part of this community so that we can keep encouraging each other along this path. I know it might sound difficult, but you have the ability to do amazing things. Every journey starts with one step. If you take a step, you can walk a mile. If you can walk a mile every day, you could circle the world in your lifetime. If you take anything from this class today, I hope you feel compelled to take a step in the direction that you want to go. If you keep up this practice of meditation every day, you can eventually turn everything you do into a meditation. Then you can learn how to keep your mind clear all of the time. When your mind is completely clear and empty, then you'll understand what this Dharma talk is about. With that said, I hope to see you here again, and I wish you good fortune on your journey. And I'm happy to answer questions, respond to any thoughts you might have about the talk. Anything puzzling you today? This is my favorite part, so don't hold back your questions. It can be about anything as well.
How did you connect emptiness to love again? Or did you do that?
How did I connect
Yes.
emptiness to love?
Did you say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really, I basically said that when you realize that you're connected to everything, by emptying your mind, you realize that emptiness is what runs through you, and it runs through the universe, and it runs through everyone else. Everyone's mind is the same emptiness. So we all have the same thing within us, and we all have our own personal scope of our mind too. But when you clear out all of your mind, it's empty. And then this is the part that's hard to explain. But when you feel that, then you realize you are connected to everything. And there's no difference between you or I or anything. When you feel that, it creates like an innate love for everything that you're connected to. And it makes you want to be compassionate to every other being, because at some point in your life, you were suffering. When you get past that, you want to help other people find that. And that's what I was saying is like the Buddha mind or the Buddha nature. Like, that's what he experienced, and that's what he was teaching us. And that's what I'm trying to pass on as well.
So just finding comfort in that.
It's. I know it's kind of hard because usually the connotation of emptiness in English language is it's like lonely, and it kind of has a negative connotation. I think that's what I thought, but it's totally different in this Eastern philosophy. It's there's no word for what it is. I'm just calling it emptiness because it's where there's nothing. It's the absence of everything. It's the absence of all of the lines. Like I call you Gazi because I see a line around your body, and I say that inside that line's Gazi, outside that line is something else. In truth, that line is just a made-up concept. Like, you are connected to the air, the water, and via that even, those substances were connected. Like, the water cycles through nature, and it cycles through all of us, and you're probably drinking the same water that a dinosaur drank, thousands of or millions of years ago. I don't know what the time frame is.
So you're basically saying that we only exist because we're just ascribing meaning to each other.
In a conceptual sense, right?
So like our lizard brain is.
Yeah, but we exist because we're experiencing this. So that's not imaginary. It's just what we view as our existence is confined to our body. I'm saying that is pretty much made up. Like, you're not just confined to your body. That's just something that everybody's been telling you since the day you were born, is that you're Gazi, you're Lindsay, you're Katie, like, that they told you that. That's what they were taught, that's where people, but if you take your heart out, you'll die. If you take your brain out, you'll die. If you take away this world from your body, you also die. So what's most important of all those three things? They're all equally important because they're all like part of you. You can't really separate it. And when you do, that's the end of you. I mean, it's a little different to extend that because, you know, parts, you can take parts, certain parts away. It's kind of like your body. You could chop off your finger and you're still alive. But if you keep going, at some point, it's like too much, and then you're not there. And I think you could say the same thing about humanity. Like, if you take away one person, maybe you survive. But if you take enough people away, humanity's done. And it could just be you, but there's no way to continue humanity. So in some way, all of these lines are somewhat arbitrary. There's a dual nature here in that it's useful to have these names, and it's useful to our survival of our bodies, because our bodies have to be fed. If you eat and I don't, it's not going to help me, right? If I just feed you, it does nothing for my body. So we learn, like, we have to feed this body, and that creates, that hunger is actually like one of the roots of our suffering. Yeah. And until you realize, like, we're all connected, then your suffering goes away because you don't see those differences. And then even the idea of life and death, if there's no thinking, those don't exist either. Those are all things, those are also lines that we drew that was like, okay, you're born and you're alive, you die and you're gone. But we have no way to prove that. Like, where did you come from? Did you just appear out of nowhere? Where do you go after you die? Do you just stop? Like, there's no proof of any of this. And what I'm suggesting is that when you take all of that away, you're part of everything. And you're part of this bigger consciousness. If you want to think about it like this, like, you have two eyes. These two eyes feed information to your mind or your brain. We'll just say mind for now, because it goes to your mind via your brain. If you take away one of those eyes, you can still see. But when you have two eyes, you're getting a different perspective, and you're getting a deeper perspective. So it's the same thing with every being has a mind and a perspective, but they're connected to this empty mind that doesn't have these concepts. I don't know. This is it's probably not making it. It might be more confusing than clarifying, but it's.
So sorry. I was saying there's a concept called two-eyed seeing in like indigenous studies and indigenous epistemologies and ontologies about having that multi in view that goes like the self, but also that interconnected with the spirit world as well. So it's literally called two-eyed seeing.
Yeah, and I think I've found similar concepts in lots of different religions, in that, you know, some religions say this is a different version of the same story. I'm not, you know, promoting any particular religion. I'm trying to teach about deeper truths that go through all of these things. But they say that, and I don't usually use the word God, but I'm going to. They say that God created to create a reflection of themselves, of himself. And in order to be the creator, he has to create, or it has to, they have to create, whatever you want to. And I'm saying the source of all creation is your mind. In your body, it's definitely your mind. But I think I'm trying to suggest that it's part of something bigger. When you take away those lines, there's no way for me to prove this to you. You have to experience it through clearing your own mind. And if you've ever heard more traditional tales of Buddha or something, he says he became one with everything. This is just a different way of saying the same thing. Because
That means to reach enlightenment, you get to like stop seeing the lines around people.
Exactly. So, and something happened to me. This is just a side story. Something happened to me after meditating many years. Like, I was never particularly good at art. And after years of meditation, all of a sudden I could draw very well without practicing. Something changed where the way I was, like, so when I used to draw, like, if I was drawing a body, I'd draw all the lines around the body and start with that as kind of a frame. Now when I draw, I don't see things that way anymore. I literally just see shadows, and the lines aren't like defined. So I draw in that way, and it made it so somehow I can just translate what I'm seeing to my hands. So it had a literal, like, meditation literally affected the way I see the world and made a tangible difference in the way I could communicate what I was seeing through visual art.
Is that what you were talking about earlier? Like, it's like we're in darkness, but like it's there, but we just can't see it because like our mind just isn't open to it.
Exactly. You're already there.
Yeah.
You have
So
everything.
what is that, the enlightenment is like gonna be the light? Like, is that?
The enlightenment is the light when you turn on the light in the room and you see everything the way it is. And meditation is the gateway to that. Truthfully, your mind, it's not a light like this light.
Yeah.
But your mind is shining a light out into the universe that's allowing you to see everything that you can see. If your mind's light wasn't on, you wouldn't see anything.
So I would say it's like an ego death because you realize how, like, kind of how insignificant you are, but that you just were missing so much.
It is, and that's why I say you put down your ego. When I say ego, I don't mean like I think a lot of myself. I mean that too, but more literally just your sense of yourself.
Your entire sense of self, yeah.
And as you meditate, it took me a long time. I've heard stories of people just happening like instantly, but I've never actually seen that happen. But you'll hear different tales like that. But I think, if you're practicing, eventually sometimes it is something that just all of a sudden shifts and you see it differently. But if you're not trying and like trying to understand this, you won't have any context for what's happening. But yeah, it is the sense of self is something we've created to help ourselves survive, help our bodies survive. But we're all part of something bigger, and as long as you are not paying attention to the bigger picture, you won't be aware of those connections. And what I'm trying to suggest is that through meditation, you can see all of those lines start to disappear. I'm using you got to be careful because I'm trying to explain something I don't think there really are words for. So I'm using words, but sometimes I'll use metaphors, things like that. The big thing though is, you have to experience it yourself in order to understand it completely. I mean, I think it's very clear you all can kind of in some intellectual way, like, understand what I'm saying. What I'm suggesting is keep going till you experience that for yourself. And everybody has their own path to get there, but it goes through your own mind, through clearing out your own mind, through putting down all of these thoughts that are clouding your mind. And then you just see things for what they are. Like, I've used this example before, but, you know, if you just even go into a forest and you see a tree, well, you're grouping something together, and there's a bunch of organisms that you're saying are trees, or maybe you say it's a maple tree or a pine tree. When you make those words, like, every one of those trees is actually completely different from the other one. We're just using those words to make life easier to comprehend and to navigate. And that's something we do as a survival instinct for our body. And what I'm saying is, that survival instinct is creating karma, which is... It's limiting us. Yes. You have to live to have these experiences, but then you also have to clear out that if you want to have this greater experience and this awareness of your connections to this, your connection to everything, basically. And when you may think, well, that's not really, like, what's the practicality of that, right? When you die, you're going to lose your body. So through this experience, it's the same thing. If you die and you don't know where you're going, it's a scary thought. If you know where you're going, it's not scary. So that's a practical reason, if you want to put it in those terms. You know, I think some people kind of are like, well, if it doesn't get me from A to B, what's the point, right? But I think it can give you, like, a lot of context for how all these things are connected, and what, like, ultimately, I think it will...
You know what I just realized?
What?
Like, when you're living, like, you're in emptiness, and when you're dead, you're in emptiness.
Yeah.
So nothing, like, you can find peace and comfort that, like, it's not jarring. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's not jarring at all.
Yeah.
And if you learn
It's
how...
just a continuation of...
If you learn how to put down all of those thoughts, then any moment you can put your mind into heaven. And that's what they call nirvana in Buddhism. And that's the way Buddha taught it, was like, that's the point. To completely liberate yourself from suffering. Then you're in heaven all of the time. I don't usually, like, I sometimes hesitate to use words like heaven and God and things like that, because it means so many different things to so many people. But I think you get what I'm trying to say with that. It's the way I define it is liberating yourself from suffering, freedom from suffering. Like, you don't suffer anymore. And that's, you know, the real reason, like, I'm teaching and I'm trying to help people is because I experienced a lot of suffering in my life, and I see a lot of it around me. And these things really helped me find peace and find my own, like, meaning in life. And I think that's something I've noticed a lot of people struggle with. And I can't tell you what your purpose is, but I think if you clear out your mind, it will become very clear to you what that is. Good questions. Any other? I talk a lot of, I will say, if you come, I say sometimes I say the same things a lot of times and repeat them. My teacher did the same thing, and depending on where I was in my life, it meant different things hearing the same thing. And so I'll try to say things a little differently. Just sometimes I don't know what's gonna make things click for people, or help them, inspire them to meditate or take the steps to empower themselves in that direction. So that's what I really hope you take out of this, and I'm really glad everyone here has returned for another one. It's like really what I'm hoping is to create momentum in individuals and amongst other people, like starting with the small group and reaching out to a bigger group, and hopefully someday you can help someone else too. So, well, thank you. I do have just a few announcements. These are the third Thursday of every month. I host the writing groups and art groups once a month. The art group is the fourth Saturday from 3:30 to 5, so that's next Saturday, September 24th, I think. That might be not the right date. The writing group is the second Sunday, 3:30 to 5. It's been great. We've been having some philosophical writings along these kind of lines, so I've been enjoying this. And I have some ideas about, once I get a core group of people, like, I think it could become something really cool to be a part of. Yeah, you should come check it out. So second Sunday, 3:30 to 5. There's also the guided meditation class. I think you came to one of those. It's pretty similar every time. In this class, I give a pretty unique talk. In that one, I'm just going through the different meditation practice. I may have some guest people come at some point. I'm trying to work with people to just show different types of meditation that even I'm not familiar with. So that's the first Thursday of every month. So it's in a couple weeks, I think. September 8th, and you don't need any prior experience to participate in any of these classes. All the information is on my website or my meetup page if you want to look at that on the Zen Art Center website and meetup page. And aside from that, I do rely solely on donations. If you can afford to make a donation, I really appreciate it. But I really, more than anything, really appreciate you coming, being a part of the community. And you're welcome to hang out and chat if you'd like to stay for a while. But thank you so much for coming, and really happy to see all of you again.